Hi folks, this is going to be an overview of how to get started on your illustrated procedure that you're going to upload to your blog. Um, in this episode, we're going to talk about the basic idea of, how to put it together, the illustrated procedure, that is, how to sketch the idea out on paper, how to capture the images, what kind of tools you can use, and then we're going to move on in the next installment to talk about how to access the Virtual Technical Writing Lab, how to get into InDesign and start placing all of these images into a document and to add text and work with the images, that sort of thing. So, first off then, we want to sketch the idea. Now, for this project, the main idea here is just to create a procedure to learn to narrate a story with images and how to capture those images in digital format, how to work with them in an application, a page layout app, and how to get all that stuff onto the net. So, the first thing you want to do is sketch out the idea, which you can do on notebook paper. So, here's how I start. I take a piece of paper, loose leaf paper, and just sketch it out with a pen. Now, just to clarify my list, here's what it looks like. I typed it up. You might even want to, after you handwrite it, type it up to make it a little bit neater. So I decided my topic is going to be making the perfect cup of tea because I found this fabulous new teapot that lets you set different temperatures for different kinds of tea. So, and you can do something like this. I mean, this doesn't have to be anything complicated because, again, the point of this project is just to learn to capture digital images, put them together into some kind of a coherent narrative, and how to get them onto the net. Then you can work later with the more complicated ideas and things like that. Anyway, so we're going to make a cup of tea. So here's my list of images. I just thought through what I would need to capture. Now you're probably going to want to do about 5 or 10 images. That's going to be plenty for this project. Again, doesn't need to be complicated, and typically you don't want a procedure to have more than 10 steps at the most anyway. So this is going to be manageable. So the first thing I know that I need to show is the box. Then I need to show this cool card that they put in with the box that shows you all the different temperatures, because this is, well, it's a very simple form of documentation that they've included with this product. Then I'm going to need to show the teapot with its controls, then the different kinds of teas that one might use, boxes of tea, tea bags, whatever. And then, of course, the finished product, the wrap-up, is the cup of tea itself, steaming in its little cup so that you can, well, drink it. So, there's my typed up list. Okay, so we've kind of walked through the idea of how to sketch out the procedure and what kinds of images that you're going to need to capture. So how do you go about capturing them? There's 3 different devices that are probably going to be the easiest ways to go here. In fact, I really can't think of any others. You can either get a digital camera if you don't already have one. They're about $100 at Radio Shack for a pretty decent camera, depending on your standards for photography. You can use the screen cam in your PC or your laptop. The problem there, of course, is that you can't really easily move it around without picking up the whole computer and moving it, and it's kind of limited. You can also get an external cam, which is what I'm using here, and I think that's probably one of your better options. I found out that I thought maybe you could use a digital camera as an input device and just plug it into your computer, but as it turns out, generally most cameras don't operate this way. I guess they don't make the right drivers or something. Anyway, but as somebody pointed out on some forum I was looking at, why not just buy a $20 or $30 external cam and plug it in? So they're really cheap. You can get them at Radio Shack, Staples, you know, one of the electronics places like Best Buy. So anyway, those are the options for capturing things. So let's do a capture. Now, one of the reasons that it's a good idea to make a list of images is that it helps you realize you don't have to capture them in order. So you can capture your images in whatever order is convenient to you, then later on you can assemble them into the narrative, because you're going to be able to move them around and resize them and reformat them and all that kind of fun stuff. When you get them into InDesign, you can use Photoshop, which we should have available in the Tech Writing Lab once we finally get everybody on there. So, okay, so let's capture a couple of images. And again, this is not a fine art project. What the point of this project is to just basically learn to work with digital images, put them together into a narrative, and stick them on the internet somehow. Okay, so here, as I said, I need to capture an image of this particular cool product. So I was going to use the box, but here I'm shifting gears already. I'm just going to take a picture of this side of the little card that they included with the box. And there it is. So my camera software has stuck this in a little tray for me, and I can open it and save it in a different location. What I would recommend is for each project that you take on, you set up a dedicated folder so that you have all the images for that project in one place. That way you can keep them straight. So the second thing, and this is a really dandy little example of technical documentation in itself, is the cool, whoa, that was bright, the cool temperature scale. So I'm gonna, we don't want me in it, just that thing. What's your ideal temperature? Okay, so we've captured our first couple of images. Now, it doesn't really matter what size they are. It doesn't matter if they need to be cropped, because obviously it would be better to crop this one so that you only have the card. It doesn't matter if, you know, if you need to adjust the contrast or the brightness or whatever, because you're going to do all that in Photoshop. You can then place them in the document in InDesign, and you will be in business. So, okay, so we've walked through the basic idea of what we're trying to do here with the illustrated procedure, how to sketch out the idea, how you can capture the images, the kind of hardware that you might use, and how you can begin capturing your images. So again, remember, the idea here is that you want the images to basically tell the story. You don't want to, well, if you do this right, you could almost do it without words, which might be a good example of an experiment. You know, try putting the procedure together with just the images and see if the images are adequate to tell the story. If they are, then you're well on your way to producing, you know, these kinds of technical documentation that you see with a lot of products now, say for example from IKEA, where often there will be no words at all but just visuals and little arrows and charming little Norwegian people pointing at things, or little cartoons of Norwegians at least. So anyway, so that's installment number 1. And the next one will be about how to access the virtual technical writing lab, how to start working with InDesign and creating documents, and then we'll move on from there to putting the documents on the web. So that's the end of that installment.